Oh, that one on the apartment, the small one. That's where we were building this house, and he moved to the neighborhood because they couldn't get the
Trying to help.
All right, once you're ready. All right, everybody. The chair calls to order the regular monthly meeting of the planning board on April 22nd, 2026 at 5 p.m. Do I have a motion to open this meeting?
Make a motion.
Second. And a second. And can the clerk now call the roll?
Kate Troll Chair.
Present.
Debbie Coster, Vice Chair. Here. Janet Briggs. Here. Carl Bruckner.
Here.
Mitch Cohen.
Here.
Ray Palmer.
Here.
Dennis O'Clair.
Here.
And Raleigh Green indicated he will be late. He didn't indicate. So we expect he should be here at some point.
Very good. Let the record show that we have seven members present and the meeting has a quorum. Let's all stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chair makes a motion to open the comment. Do I have a second? Right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Is there anyone who would like to participate in public comment? Nope. All right, if there's no objection, the chair moves to close public comment. Actually, when I do that, you don't actually have to second it. So if this is sort of an assumptive declaration, and what I do is I follow it up with having heard no objections, public comment is now closed. So just a way to speed it up. Moving right along. Yep. But I like the enthusiasm. All right, moving on to approving the meeting minutes. The chair makes a motion to approve meeting minutes for March 25th, 2026. Is there a second? Thank you, Mitch. Draft minutes have been distributed electronically to members. Are there any members who have not had an opportunity to review?
They have also been posted on the website.
Any further discussion? All right. Motion on the table is to approve meeting minutes for March 25th, 2026. All those in favor say aye. No, you've actually had an opportunity to review them anyway.
But I just didn't know if I could do it because I wasn't here to say that.
Most certainly can. All right, motion carries unanimously. On to agenda item number 1. 2501 Baxter. So, Maggie, just move the slides forward.
Okay, I didn't know where you were. I just went to the
Yeah,
first one.
so I think everybody's familiar with Baxter. Everybody's had an opportunity to review. So discussion topics for today are going to be waivers, really the one waiver we had already discussed. Got it. And then we're going to be doing determination whether the application before tax complete. And hopefully that is the case and we can schedule a public hearing. So first, let's move on to waivers. So we had talked about at the beginning of this process, waivers that were submitted for roads and driveways having to do with the slope. The applicant has satisfied all of those, so there's actually no need for those waivers anymore. However, another issue had come up with the setback for road turrets from the parcel boundaries. For this particular development, the setback needed to be 250 feet. The original proposal was well under that. So after a discussion with the applicant, they made efforts to move it as far away from the parcel boundary as possible. And I believe at last view was something about 206 feet.
Yes, yeah, correct. I think it's 40. I think we were looking for 44 feet. There was something like that as a waiver, if I can recall.
Right. So,
So we're looking at 206.
206
instead of 250.
yeah, so in order to create a little bit of latitude there, when you're actually on the site doing work, the chair is going to make a motion to reduce the street terminus setback requirement to 200 feet. So we have an extra 6 feet there to work with. As specified in the Hurley Town Code, section 170-20D1, for application 2501 Baxter. Is there a second?
I'll make it second.
Thank you, Mitch. All right, so now we can open this up for discussion. Everybody familiar with what we're talking about here? Went into great detail about where the road is being terminated and how the applicant had moved that away in a fairly thoughtful way. Just right up there.
I see you got the one entrance in. We have the only one.
Yeah, so this waiver it doesn't have to do with the curb cuts and the entrances in this instance, where the road is terminated. Any further discussion on this? All right.
Yeah, I just have one quick,
Yeah,
how are you making out with, all that tree?
We, sorry.
you know what, let's hold that for a second, and we're gonna ask that right after we finish this waiver. So, if there's no further discussion on this particular topic, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Mitch, please answer the question.
So what we did was we took the plan that we have and we did the construction entranceway, and we cut a very minimal section of that up to the driveway of lot number 1. And then we cleared a couple of trees along the roadway all the way up to the top. And that's all we did at this point in time. Because we wanted to make sure that we're not going to do too much before we had everything done. We did enough to make it so that it's presentable, safe, all that stuff to work in there. And so we go the next step further. We did what we did, and that's so there's not a lot. We didn't do a ton of tree removal stuff, but we ton of stuff that was in the way or dangerous overhangs.
Stuff laying down, especially when going in there with a lot of big trees.
Yeah.
Put on the side. I got injured going in there the first time. It's still can recover.
Now that you're actually in there, how are you
There's a lot of parts.
Say it again.
staking?
So I discussed with John here, the owner of the property, that we go one more step to get a little bit further in the plot so we can get a known, so we have this part done, then we bring in the Larios to do the whole entire state.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's really just setting expectations.
I was kind of like, I didn't want to put the cart before the horse, and so I just figured we had to get to a certain point where I was comfortable with go and do that. That's all.
I mean, it looks good, by the way. It looks good in one entrance.
Yeah. The one entrance was a good idea, and it worked out nice.
I'm actually glad it worked out like that. I mean, I had thought about having the one as my own, but it's nice how it is. It goes in and it'll turn. It's gonna be perfect.
That's great news. Great news.
It's one of them without a road maintenance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Where it always gets
All right.
done.
It really could come out.
Everybody will be happy, they'll all be paying the same.
No, unfortunately, that's not. Sorry. Unfortunately, that's not the way it goes with a whole lot, because the guy in the front is going to pay less than the guy in the back because it's going to be progressive as the road maintenance goes throughout. But that's going to get written up by.
Well, Rhode Island is like that.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
it's only fair. The guy at the front shouldn't be paying to the guy in the back.
Every development does.
We had submitted
Ways to do it,
we
so
submitted
that's
a draft. We submitted a draft and we looked at, that was just a draft, just to know that we're working on it.
All right, so to keep this moving along, what we're gonna actually do now is I'm gonna make a motion for the preliminary plat application to be complete. And then we will have discussion on all the lines of work. So let me begin. The chair makes a motion to determine that the preliminary plat application for 2501 Baxter is complete, having satisfied the requirements of section 170-16, both A and B. Is there a second? Thank you, Rich. All right, so now we can open it up for discussion. In particular, let's focus on the items that are required. So Maggie, if you want to step forward. Preliminary plat application. Right here, so this is a kind of a very high level outline of what's required. The preliminary plat map with required details has been provided. The updated environmental assessment form also provided. The board has been studying the whole time the requirements of the community, business plan, and so forth. We did this all through the sketch plan approval process. The stormwater pollution prevention plan, I understand, just arrived.
Yesterday.
All right, so we haven't had an opportunity to review that, but that's not necessary. We're simply determining that the application is complete. The proposed roads, lots, wetlands to be staked. So that particular item is not done yet. However, the for the application, it is in the code. It's you can interpret it as being required after the application is complete and before preliminary plat approval is given, or prior to the application. So in this instance, we're going to assert that the staking needs to be done before approval can be given. Discussion on those topics. And then finally, soil test per test holes and data, which
That's already done. That's kind of where I was saying I held off because we did I did the soil test stuff a long time ago, and I'm
I found it.
going to hold off on going too far before we get approval result.
So at this point, any questions, concerns about the application itself? That the requirements and application it's needed.
Well, actually, I do.
Yeah.
So under the split, so, we granted the waiver for the turnaround.
Terminus.
Yeah, so does that, that doesn't, the DEC will actually require their own, because you can make it more stringent, but you can't lessen whatever the requirement is for the spec, right?
So I'm not exactly following the DEC's.
On distance where the.
So that the distance from the parcel boundary is not a DEC, it's a town code. So in our own code for where roads can be, we have in our code, Hurley Town Code, that the 250 feet is for this particular parcel. That's the limit. So because it's within our own code, we have the authority to give a waiver.
Okay.
Right? So if it were a DEC code thing, then we would have to go to them to do it.
Yeah. I just thought there was a stream back there. That's all.
Well, there's definitely a stream on the other side of the street.
Yeah. So,
And certainly the SWIP is going to have to talk about how that's being managed.
Yeah.
The seeker review is going to have to address that. But these are all things that are going to happen from this point until we get to approval. So, any other discussion?
Have questions, but you can answer it after we've done with this.
So the chair recognizes the applicant.
On the staking and marking, the proposed roads, lots, wetlands, all staked. Every lot staked. When you say staked, you're talking septic fields, house location, all that stuff. So it's on every lot.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I knew that we had it, we were going to choose to do one at a time, that we had to do one at a time, but they all had to be done because of the subdivision. You had to have them all mapped out at once.
So in theory, it can be done one at a time, but it makes it a lot
No,
more
I understand what you're
complicated and
saying. I just
costly for
I want to
you.
make sure that you understood, yeah, to get them in and do the whole thing once. Okay,
Yep.
That's all.
Other discussion amongst the board? All right, so we have a motion on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The application is complete. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes,
with regard to the SWIT, the revised DAF, and anything else that is in Peak Engineering's original memo, I assume the board wants me to forward that now that we have a complete preliminary
you're
plan.
jumping the gun here.
Oh,
We'll get
It
to
went,
that.
it went to agenda two, that's why I
Yeah,
asked.
so we'll get to the next steps. and
Yeah,
stuff.
my agree. It's accepted as everybody else, so. It's not a surprise.
So with the complete application, we now have moved on to the part of actually scheduling a public hearing. So we can hear from the community about any concerns about this particular project. So the chair makes a motion to schedule a public hearing on the preliminary plat application for 2501 Baxter. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ray. And any discussion? All those
Time, when and the time, so that I can.
So this will be at the next regular board meeting. 7 May, thank you. And we set it at 5:15.
Thank you.
I apologize. The date again of that was
May 27th.
27th.
May 27th. All right, so with all the details, I will repeat it. So the chair makes a motion to schedule a public hearing on the preliminary plat application for 2501 Baxter at the next regular town planning board meeting on May 27th. At 5:15. Thank you, Rich. The motion has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries unanimously. And now we can get to next steps. So as we had discussed before, Peak Engineering is going to be re-engaged for the redoing the preliminary plat process. Yes, the clerk is going to forward that information, the SWIFT to Peak Engineering to begin that part of the review. And of course, we'll keep you apprised of the other aspects of the project that, as you bring information to us, we'll let you know that we're going to be engaging on what parts will engage Peak Engineering.
One more question. As she sends the stuff to Peak Engineering.
Yep.
Questions, answers, that could all be done. You don't have to wait a whole month to fix stuff or questions or answers that they have, correct? No,
Yes,
I can you can correspond throughout the month and fix or change or anything that they want done.
correct.
Okay. I don't know. I had to submit it to you first and you tell me I gotta send it to
It'll
them.
take all year to get through this. That's to have it. So it's-
So again.
the chair recognizes the clerk.
My question with that similar to if Peak needs to go on site, does the board want someone from the planning board there as well to understand what Peak is asking in case there's questions that the board feels they should be able to bring back?
Sure.
Or
The quick answer to that is that no, the board does not need to be there with Peak Engineering. However, the board does need to see the statement.
Yep.
Makes sense?
I will though let the board know when you're going.
It's,
So-
when we stake it and I ask for a meeting for that, is that a, how much time do we need to do that?
So you should give us, I'm saying 2 weeks to get our schedules aligned to.
Just need to know so I can
Yep.
coordinate.
Right. Any questions from the applicant?
I think I got them all so far. So.
All right, so really our next step is public hearing. In parallel to this, we'll begin the secret process. So that's moved along for, get through the public hearing and let's keep it moving.
Thank you very much.
All right. That's it.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night. Thanks,
You as
guys.
well.
Maybe doesn't have to test.
Well, I think they make good personnel.
They did a good
Yeah,
job.
they did a good job.
They're
Nice
doing
presentation.
it how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have all the pieces.
And that's trying to comment, but, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'd have your vote.
And all the key players are here, not like.
Absolutely.
Yes, but to be fair, it's not the easiest process and people who are amateurs,
Yeah.
these guys are already pros, professionals. It's not that easy. We're trying to make it easier.
That's a great segue into our next item. on the agenda. Amateurs. Yeah, so we have, 25, 24 bellows. It's not here. And we're not gonna spend too much time on this, but, basically, they do not have we're trying to get them moved into preliminary plat, approval. So of course, just like the applicant that was just here, they need to actually get all the materials necessary for a complete application. I'm gonna hand it over to the clerk for a moment
They're in a holding pattern.
to go over the items that are still yet to be provided.
which I did send to all of you, via email, but, after the workshop meeting back in March, beginning of March, we've been trying to get them to submit everything that was on the list after, that they told they needed after that. So far, I did get a copy of the deed and the map that created the switchback. Although it doesn't show any history of that the county actually approved the intersection of the switchback to, and it was around the time where it's my understanding,
We'll caveat that with
right,
May, so we
May.
actually don't know yet.
the waiver form they had for Marios do it, although there's some confusion whether it's complete and the correct waivers are being asked for since the road exists. So I'm waiting for an answer on that. They were supposed to submit both the current road maintenance or the current right of way and the proposed how it's going to change so that, with the adding of, the second line. I don't have either the current or the proposed at this point. And they indicated, at the workshop meeting that they don't want to have to go through the engineering for lot 2. They want it to be approved as vacant versus residential. And they have to get septic and everything when they submit a building permit. They indicated they wanted it to be vacant, but they haven't actually asserted that yet to know whether we need more from them or if what they have to do is it needs to be all the lot. And, you know,
Yeah.
and Greg did do a site visit, which he went over last month after the workshop meeting. So you all have this also by email. And the applicant has been sent it multiple times.
Thank you. With that, there's really nothing to do on this particular agenda item until next time.
To the application phase.
That's the way we gotta keep it,
That is good.
so they get the proper information, folks. That's,
As I get things, I will send them out to everybody, so you can
Yeah.
start looking it over and having, developing any questions.
May I make a suggestion when you do send them out?
Sure.
Instead of red, change it to blue or green, so that way we know that part has been received.
Okay, great. And I'll identify if I send you like the road maintenance agreements that, you know, I'll reference which on the list it was and stuff. And I'll keep setting the list and change it as it.
Okay. So with that done, our next item is actually for us to go into executive session. And I'm going to motion right now. The chair makes a motion to go into executive session to discuss employment history of one or more particular persons and or corporations for the purpose of making an appointment to the role of planning board secretary for the remainder of calendar year 2026. Do I have a second? I'll second. Carl, thank you.
That's your job today. I make sure that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Give us a few minutes.
What's that?
Said last time we're talking visual assessment. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
yep, updated the zoning code update proposal.
My contribution.
So if you go back to that same one, you'll see that. Cool. Yeah, no,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Are you in business?
Oh, what's this? I am. I just need to park properly.
All right, very good. So the chair makes a motion to adopt planning board resolution 2026 #5 to appoint Maggie Collins as secretary to the planning board for the remainder of calendar year 2026, with the understanding that the position serves at the pleasure of the planning board. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mitch. Any discussion? We have plenty of discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Welcome back,
Thank you.
Maggie.
Thank you. Did it say it then or what?
I think you went anywhere.
No.
All right, so moving on to other business. So, first, the zoning code update. So Maggie, move one slide forward. So just to remind everybody where we are on the calendar with all this. So we've done BAS, ADU, visual assessment. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the zoning code enforcement officer amendment, which is not really an amendment, but it's a, in our code, we have the role of code enforcement officer and zoning enforcement officer. And they're not written the same way, which is creating conflicts between the two roles. The way the town has handled that is simply take one person and assign them both roles. However, we're not getting the benefit of what we had hoped, which is if something happens to our code enforcement officer, what's our backup plan? Okay, really what we need is just a unified role, call it zoning enforcement officer or code enforcement officer. So that's a role, but we also need to have the ability to have an alternate. Exactly, just like we have. Yeah. Okay, so that's the nature of what that is. I have a bunch of questions that are in front of Matt Jankowski in terms of how it needs to be worded. As soon as I get those back, I'll have the final text ready and I will send that up to you when it happens. Like the presentation for that will be really pretty short. That's what's going to happen.
Is the CEO also the building inspector?
So
Or is that
think
kind
of
of
it as like
combined?
different roles, same person.
It is.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So in fact, building inspectors have different.
Right, but
roles
when
as well.
if you have a construction project and you need your plumbing or insulation inspection, it's basically the CEO, code enforcement officer, who comes out and does that.
So you have building inspectors that look at how work is being done on the job. That is basically using building code to make sure that you're in compliance with that. But if it has to do with something specific to Hurley's zoning code, then yes, you put that.
Right, but it
Code
is the same
enforcement
person. We don't
officer.
have a separate building inspector and a code enforcement officer. It's the same person.
So what we have right now today is that we have 2 part-time building inspectors. And finally, yay, we have a full-time code enforcement officer / zoning enforcement
Okay, so
officer
it is this different.
and building inspector.
Okay,
They're all
that's what I was asking. Is it a different person here? in
But the
Hurley?
2 part-time
Building inspector.
building inspectors cannot be the code enforcement officer.
Okay.
So you can see that it's this part of the update is really about streamlining and making sure that there's not confusion. Or let's suppose the town board at some future time decides to appoint both a CEO and a CEO. There's no way that the code can rectify who takes priority. They can rule 2 different ways on the same thing, and that would just create a huge conflict within. So rather than wait for that day, fix it.
And so the code enforcement officer, like I say, you have a neighbor and they're doing something that you know is like, just, it was, their lights are just crazy bright and whatever. You call the town and the code, you file a complaint and the code enforcement officer goes out and inspects it.
Yes, and they're
Okay.
the ones who can issue a cease and desist, and it's not a desist, it's a
Stop work or,
well, there's stop work orders, but no, they
Fine.
yes, a violation. Thank you.
It may not even be working. It may not even be working on a house. It's a code.
No, I know, right. Yeah, it has nothing to do with building, it just, yes. Right, okay.
When you leave the complaint, you have to give your name. Unfortunately.
Yes.
Fingerprints of
What?
People have a right.
The chair recognizes
Yes,
the
that's
question.
right. I was gonna say that.
Dennis, just to maybe help you so Rich Morgan, the new part-time building inspector, he retired from Hyde Park. And he said right from the beginning, he didn't do, all of the zoning stuff was handled separately in Hyde Park. So he just did building permits, building inspection. So towns can set things up slightly differently. So if that
It's a different level of knowledge and have you're doing this code enforcement, just building.
And versus zoning, like lights would be a zoning issue. Possibly. So if that made it any clearer, like.
You may not be able
towns
to find
can-
one person qualified to do the combined job.
Well, civil service tried to take care of it by creating what's called a zoning registry.
Well, I think they can do a good job if the town board, lets them go with it, so to speak, on enforcement. If he has no backup, or he has nobody that's gonna, if he's just going nowhere with enforcement, why is he gonna do it?
It also has to do with how his time is being prioritized. So enforcement is time consuming. Okay, and to your point, Carl, you need support from the town board to support
That's right,
that investment.
and it hasn't been for many years.
Don't make rules unless you enforce them.
That's right.
So, all right, so that's where we are with zoning code update. Then you want to just back up one. So what I want to do now is just a brief 2526 Noya Dorje. That's the pre-application that came in October, where they were talking about the dozen yurt-like structures up on our Hale Mountain, and all sorts of religious.
And they haven't been,
Interesting.
Yes, they wanted to be a religious organization, and I guess when it takes psychedelics, it's a religious experience. That's what's happening up there.
Did they withdraw their application?
So what I wanted to do is kind of share with you what happened. So the they came in for a pre-application. There has been no application. No building permit application, nothing. When Paul Economos was here, he did a lot of research into the right of way, the width of the right of way,
Yeah, that was a
how
problem.
wide it needed to be in order to accommodate the size of the activities in there. And it turned out that the right of way did not provide enough width. And at that point, everything stopped. So no progress has been made on this. The first thing I wanted to do is ask a question of whoever was here. How did the escrow account get set up without an application being submitted? I'm just curious how that occurred. So it's the applicant deposited $10,000, and at that first meeting, the planning board was represented by an attorney who in total had almost $2,000 of expenses for prep for the meeting and being at the meeting and follow up from the meeting. So there's a balance of a little over $8,000 to owe to the applicant. But again, all of this happened without an application.
I think Tracy did determine before they came in, because we were aware that they had done construction with that approval. They did a lot of things before. And,
With everything without-
yeah. And she felt that there was a need for the attorney to be present to help us. I think she actually discussed it with them, not just said we're going to charge it, but we said, either, that an application, but I'm not sure of the wording exactly.
Okay, so
It
that's
was
good to know.
initiated by us because
Yeah.
we knew we needed to have somebody here, because the project was going to be a legal headache.
But the planning board asked for $10,000. So that was the escrow amount that we agreed on
Right.
at that meeting.
I think everybody's seen it, there's probably gonna be a problem.
Right, and also Tracy, from her beginning of her tenure, whatever, was adamant against paying for an attorney. I know Mitch was always wanting that in the planner, and we usually didn't. So that was like an exception, that meeting, because of the complication and scope of that project, that we had, I guess, an attorney present.
Yeah.
Where almost every other meeting with Tracy as our chair, we did not.
We used to have both the planner and the chair at all of our meetings, so it's costing a lot of money.
And I've seen.
Yeah.
Yes,
I do also remember that at that meeting, the applicant's attorney was here, and the applicant's attorney agreed with the planning board that in order to attempt to move forward and determine whether or not the right of way was sufficient, and if so, what they would need to submit as an application, that his attorney advised him that the deposit
all right, so
was necessary.
that's good information. The one thing that I find curious about the situation is that we, by engaging an attorney before an escrow had been set up, implies that those costs, theory, should be owned by the town. Because we didn't actually have an action in front of us at the time that we engaged the attorney. We were doing it ahead. I'm not here to, pick over rocks and things, but in the future, in order to be clean on that front,
Right.
we really need to make sure that the application has already been submitted so that there is an action. And then we are completely justified in engaging the services of an attorney or planner or whoever, in order to help us work through an application.
Now, there could have been a conversation between Tracy, their attorney, and this attorney, and they could have said, just so you know, we're taking this money out of escrow. Okay, when the attorney is here for us, they could have had that conversation.
Tracy said it in the meeting.
I'm just saying
At the
that,
meeting?
Yeah, she told
because
him that would
you
be
can have
coming.
an attorney
Of course you can.
and actually charge it to escrow. Okay, because that attorney is actually providing professional services. okay?
For that one.
Because a planner is not an attorney, chair, it is not an attorney, even though Tracy was an attorney, she was not acting as an attorney. So if there's a professional here, the professional was brought on with the intent of being paid by the planning board, and that money was from the escrow. So I mean,
Right, but
How would
what
you
Greg
do?
is saying,
Yeah,
the escrow did not exist before that meeting started, and so the, but attorney was providing services before the escrow actually existed.
And the way the escrow,
So-
our town code for
Right,
escrow
so
accounts is
if-
written that it's.
If they were to like sue and say, we want our whole 10,000, we might not have a leg to stand on, because it was just, she said, he said, but nothing really
so
But it's
done
on
by the
video,
book in writing.
But it's what document.
and it's on
True.
video.
But hang on, the issue is really that the escrow account itself is predicated on an action being in front of the board. There was no action.
Except
Is
it's a
that
referral
question,
involved.
is anyone challenging this?
No.
So this is just
This is
investigation,
a discussion
understanding.
for us in the future. The thing that I actually want to talk about today is closing it out.
How do you handle a case like that, where there's someone coming before you that has violations at the Kazuki and we felt, and there was an exposure, would you?
You know,
would you
you just don't hear them.
So that would be our defense, right? So that would be our rationale for doing that. We get an affidavit from Tracy. And
I mean, like, say
that's
that's
how we would proceed.
But if another project came where the guy was, he built 18 houses on a piece of property, he came and I want to do this, and we felt,
He didn't give us our application.
so they had to come before us, they need an application. If they didn't have an application, they could have come to a review meeting.
What do you, you ask if someone comes at a time with an application, but they've had, things they've done before without an application?
No, if God comes before the board to present something, and we felt the need for that be covered for that presentation by having an attorney, we're saying that we really can't have an attorney present unless we have an application, so they should have put an application in before and then.
So here's what the court would say. The court would say, why did you need that professional there since it's pre-application? You have no authority to make any determination at that time anyway.
No, I'm not saying what about that case, I know that case is not right, but in the future, if someone came in and said, I have this project, I want to come before the board, and we felt
Come
there
back
was a
next month.
need to have an
Yeah,
attorney
but-
present.
So let's run with your example. So let's say that it seems like a complicated presentation and maybe we want the services of a planner to hear them. In which case, what we should do is, before they come in, have the escrow account set up and have the approval of the applicant or pre-applicant to know that they're going to be paying for the services of a planner
That's right.
for this particular
Absolutely,
pre-application.
absolutely.
So I think that's the point. I think that's how.
I'm just gonna go one step and say, and somebody at the conference brought this up also, okay? Like New Jersey, okay, where they call it testimony, okay? When you go into the planning board, you have to, make a swear on the Bible, all that stuff. I'm not getting there, with this,
Yeah, that was.
but what I'm saying is that they are required, any applicant, first of all, they won't even hear your case, you won't even hear your application in front of the planning board unless the application is complete. That's number one. Number two, with that application process, you have to provide them with monies for escrow, for the attorney, for the town attorney, and escrow for their planners. They want that, okay, before you can actually show up at the planning board. And I'm just saying, we could do the same thing here. It's costly to the applicant, who probably don't want to do that. But I'm just saying, that's what they do there to cover their bases with escrow.
Who's doing this? New
The
Jersey.
state of New Jersey.
Well, everything in New Jersey is extraordinarily expensive, and it sounds like expensive exercise.
Yeah.
So,
But to Mitch's point, what it does is
Yeah,
it forces the
I'm not
sequence of
saying-
events.
Do we need an application submission before we can open an escrow account?
So reading the code that we have for escrow accounts, it reads that.
Okay, so in other words, the whole process of having them come
Now,
forward.
what we don't need to do is we don't need to vote on it. Okay, it can literally be Maggie receives the application along with the escrow agreement, along with the check. And we're done. Yes.
So to speak to that, that's because, and maybe this somewhat has to do with the difference between the CEO and ZEO stuff, is that the planning board absolutely received a referral from Paul that they had built all these structures, they were illegal, and they asserted to Paul they had the right to do it because it was a religious use. And Paul said that you need site plan approval from the planning board. And so they reached out to get on the agenda for site plan approval and discuss the violations, what the process might be to
But
be.
insofar,
So if there's a referral and the planning board does nothing with that referral,
so that's not a referral. So because there was no action to the building department either. They didn't make an application. They didn't apply for a
It
permit.
was we made it more formal.
just
than it was
an
informal.
informal-
We shouldn't even entertain that.
All right, let's show this to that, let's
Yeah,
go
So
on
we're
with
learning.
the new
We're learning for
steps.
the future.
So I think we have a good handle on how we're going to approach
Right.
this.
All right,
And, just be sensitive to the sequence of events,
You just have to tell the guy.
especially if it's a big project.
Yeah, if without at least the application and the escrow set up, we don't entertain down here.
So that brings me to the last piece of this, which is,
so are we? Are we?
I'm about to
motioning
make a
close?
motion.
Oh, good, okay. I kind of didn't want to say.
So, the chair makes a motion to refund the remaining balance for the escrow account 2526 million Dorje to the applicant and close that escrow account after the refund has been received. By the second.
second.
Right? So any other discussion on that? It's been 6 months since the original pre-application was done and the escrow was created. Nothing has happened since then. So I think it's time to take it off of our docket and give them their money back.
At some point, they may be back with an application,
Of
but we'll
course.
go forward with that.
They have to get that lady that gave them the easement to widen it.
Well, but
She wants
they may
it.
not be
She's
back,
gonna
if they
want
come
it.
back and they got
She
it,
wants
that's,
Newport.
We have a motion on the table, so,
In a second.
fine.
I second it.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are. We're actually, let's move on to the date on the conference.
Aside from the pins, what did you guys learn?
So one of the things on the best, they had really good handouts. I didn't know if it's working with you.
No, they didn't have really good handouts.
Well, we get them all on the site, they're all slides.
Oh, right,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
got like that, send it on my way.
Or give it, if it's only hard copy, give it to me and I'll scan.
One of the things, seeing the parent, I'm glad to Rich about it. We went to one conference in the morning and the state said these regulations, that regulation, they're trying to move things along, make things a little easier, especially for affordable housing. Then you go to a conference in the afternoon, they're making rules for something else that almost contradicts themselves. It was, well, the wetland thing, the regulations aren't even done and they're putting things out there and the DEC's going, what do you want us to do? It just, what was the one place in Jersey, the parcel? Because the wetland thing, extended the zone around wetlands to 100 feet each side of the wetlands. And a person had it's 20 acres. Oh, that was upstate New York. And, the poor guy had 20 acres. And by the time that came in, he couldn't do anything with the property.
And it was like 5 generations owned that piece of land and it's commercial, that they were using it, farming, whatever. And when the DEC made a mapping, it was like someone took a pluck and wanted to
Yeah.
coffee, wherever the coffee stained, that's wetlands. They're like, this is not, and the attorney,
This
the
one's
attorney's like, I looked up my house, here's my house. She says, look, she says this is not wetlands, and they have it as wetlands. So the mapping is wrong. That's what she put out basically. New York State mapping right now is
It was terrible.
incorrect. So for wetlands, don't use that, because if you use it, you know, all they need is, you need 3 points to
To determine what.
determine the wetlands. And so, but this is gonna be, the wetlands, I did bring her PowerPoint slide.
Oh,
She gave
good.
me her own.
Okay,
Yeah,
Right?
Mitch had that.
It's the colored print, one that's printed out in color.
yeah, so I'll scan it.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear what they had to say about battery storage. And, solar,
While we're talking about wetlands, did they talk about, sorry,
and they, I listened to them a little bit, and said, well, how long do the solar panels last? These are large projects. The town, the town can do up to 25K. I think that's what it is. But, on a big project, we do them anywhere from 300 acres to 3,000. I said, well, that just wipes out our farmland. I said, how long do they last? He says, well, 3 to 5 years. I said, well, yeah. So I said, well, what is the, what do you do with them after they're done? Oh, he says, we dispose of them. I said, yeah, but what do you do with them? And he didn't like my questions. And, so, he says, well, that's up to the landowner. I said, why is that? Because that's in the agreement. And the landowner is getting rent for his property. And I said, well, how does the tax base work? If you put up 2 houses that are worth $1 million and you put up a whole bunch of solar panels that are worth 10 million, how do you pay taxes on that? Well, he says, that's what the landowner runs. And he just beat around the bush.
Carl, may I ask, he said 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5.
Because that doesn't sound right at all.
No, it doesn't.
Because there have been these proposed, solar farm projects locally. The number I keep hearing is 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
20 years, yeah.
And, so that sounded, the question's a great one about recycling or about disposal and all that stuff.
Yeah, they have to be disposed of, he said. I said,
Yeah,
It's like the,
these brochures were there for
state
handouts.
here, I'll scan
Send one down to the
The scanning.
chairman.
yeah, so,
And you give Maggie the other one.
yeah,
to keep on
I'll
file.
scan them all.
Create a folder.
I will.
for it,
And this one, put on file.
it wouldn't make economic feasibility if they're only lasting 3 or 5 years.
I think it's 24.
That's what,
I think so too, but this, I don't know why.
The point is, when you ask them, what do you do with them afterwards, it's like, well, that's a landowner's problem.
Yeah.
It's like, last week I was reading the thing on wind turbines and this,
Beat around the
and they
bush.
don't know what to do with the blades. And they're building big landfills out in the Midwest, just digging big holes and piling them in there.
on the wetland thing,
Yeah, but, you know, what's the thing?
everyone knows that the DEC introduced new wetland stuff.
Yeah.
So they went, and they came out with maps and stuff like that, but they've done even more specific maps since. And it sounds like exactly, I've heard this, that it's taken out large swaths,
Yeah.
much bigger than what was
They extended when it was each side of a wetland, went from, I think it was 25 feet for a while, and now it's 100 feet each side of the wetland.
Yeah.
And this guy had 20 acres, and it's generational, and they wanted to build on it. And after the new regulations, you can't build on it. They can't do anything on the property because the 100 feet.
So the regulations started in January of 2025, okay? Since then, in 2026, they changed it. So it used to be 12 and a half acres. Now it's 7.4.
So Maggie, you sent out something that said that
Correct. That's what I wanted to ask about, if they talked about
the courts actually overturned.
like 2 days before you guys went. That's
Yeah.
why I said you guys asked you guys to
They were
See if they mentioned it.
the restriction to 7.3
So
back to
the-
12.
I didn't read
Yes,
the whole
they
court case.
reverted it back to the 2022.
Oh, is that what
Don't
they
go
did?
by the bill now.
2022.
Yeah, so the
the
regulations
bill
that were in
back.
place in 2022 for the DEC, that's what's accurate today, because the new regulations that got, it was either the beginning of 25 or the beginning of 26, so both, that new regulations came in, and they've rolled back all of it.
See, you're right. Like you said, it was ramping out big parcels.
And you'll laugh because the court overturned it because DEC didn't follow seeker.
That one.
So
Oh, I love
there was,
that.
there was a builder,
The irony is,
I know, I love it.
there was a builder, and the builder and the architect were there to support the attorney that was going over the wetlands. And on bottom line, they sued the state of New York. It's a big lawsuit with a builders association. Okay, and I'm wondering if that was the overturning, that because while he was there, he made it, yeah. So, but the thing is Governor Hochul is trying to overturn all that and make, because she wants affordable housing.
Low income.
So she's changing seeker so that nobody can argue the seeker. And if this piece of land is not eligible because of seeker, because it's whatever, type 1, type 2, or unlisted, whatever it is, if we find it at the planning board, that they can't do that project.
It's more nuanced than that. If it's disturbed land and it's 100 units or less, it gets more streamlined through that process. If it's specifically housing.
But also with public, it has to have, like Kingston, water and sewer.
Yeah.
You can't build 100 unit condo here in
Nowhere.
Hurley with, that needs a septic. That part will
The
not.
classes
I
we
think
went,
100 units is more like a sewer plant rather than a septic.
the classes we went to
sounds
were
like you're
quite,
gonna need.
Here's all the speakers. Did you want their information?
I do.
Something you may
Yeah,
want
she'll
to
scan everything.
Yeah,
call on somebody for a
Everybody here
presentation.
should be a member of the New York Planning Federation. I'm assuming that the town paid
they do,
membership.
they
So,
do, yeah.
Yes,
On-
I'm signed up.
On the New York Planning Federation website, if you go to the main page, it says conferences on the left.
So you don't get.
If you select that, it'll bring up all of the PowerPoint slides
cool.
that they presented, so you can look at.
Did they talk about this at all?
Yes,
And, you know, I keep reading missives that the state government is getting close to just basically rolling over home rule.
that's right.
Uh-huh.
That's
That's
what I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah, that's
On-
right.
on-
Already done.
That's what we
If
got
it's
out.
done.
Yeah.
I mean, done, or like it's.
So we are.
Sleight of hand done.
If it's in front of local to sign.
Okay, it's in, because if a best plan is proposed in a location where it should theoretically, or could be zoning would permit it, that it cannot be dismissed out of hand from using various seeker forms or other. Correct.
Right, so the applicant can appeal it to this organization, this agency called ORAS.
Yeah.
That has been putting through all of the big solar and wind farms. So they're gonna now also be in charge of this.
Great.
So basically, what we got from that presentation was, we may say, no, this doesn't go here, it doesn't fit here, and then they could go,
They
They
say
can
that's
appeal.
gonna go.
and sorry, it's going there.
Well, this rule of the governor has, the state has to be able to basically roll is based on the idea of emergency powers. If we're at war, you need to do and build certain things for whatever reason, for example. And we're basically in a climate change war in their mindset. And so this is an emergency power. We've got to ram this through, and it's going to make people unhappy, grumpy and whatnot, but we've got to do it. So this is kind of their mindset that they approach this to. And I'm not sure I agree with that, but no one is clear. There's like about 5 or 6 best plans proposed to Ulster County right now. Every single town has been resistant. And yet, and so if everyone's saying no, then where do you build this presumed critical piece of the renewable infrastructure?
Told when you buy Couples house.
So once that goes signed.
So when I come out of this battery storage thing, the brochures that I give you.
So to reiterate the code that we're doing about this, right now the town has a moratorium. Or it's, nobody else can break it, a moratorium, but moratoriums have a finite life.
But the moratoriums have actually backfired because what's happened is all these towns across the state have been passing moratorium, which has given the impetus for the governor to just basically say, this is an example, well, we need this. So we're just gonna.
So
No, really, I'm not arguing with it, but there's more appropriate places to build them than when they're built.
And Coleman, I got it.
You know, I mean, the danger of those things, when they start burning and the toxic gas and everything, I mean, you don't want them anywhere, but you certainly don't want them in a area like that.
Now, if you watched David Muir, ABC World News Tonight, David Muir, last night, I think, there was this little missive about a woman in a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, and the battery, the lithium battery exploded.
Yep.
All right. And I mean, it's like amazing. So I mean, we live with this danger with our cell phones and everything else all the time. So this is just a big reversion. It's debate, but I'm not keen on the Coleman project myself. But it's this is what's ended up happening.
Well, it seems like the state wants to protect the nature and the wetlands, but they don't care about the people near the battery factory.
That's the official policy of the Washington DC's EPA. Did you hear that? About a month ago, the EPA says they're no longer going to consider human impact on pollution.
And then I'm just reading a report 2 weeks ago, how the earth is so overpopulated from basically what they consider carrying capacity. I'm not suggesting we just start wiping out people, but, and now we're not gonna consider human impact.
Crazy.
Well, after this one class, I went to the lady that was running the show there. What was her name? She was the head speaker. She was in charge.
So,
Yeah.
Anyway, I stopped off. She had a little desk there, and I said, I just come out of this battery storage thing. And I said, and the solar panels. And every time I asked a question, I kind of got an answer, but it wasn't the one I wanted. And so like he said that the landowner is going to dispose of them after they're worn out. What dispose where? What? Send them back to China. So I said the guy he didn't give me the right answers, and he was kind of running around in circles. The lady says, well, this young girl here, this is his daughter. I know, well, hey, he's got to say what he's got to say because that's what the state wants him to say.
When I sat in on the webinar for desk plants for credits, stuff like that, did you ever?
Yes, I did.
The whole presentation was bogus because they were effectively talking about stuff that was small potatoes. They weren't talking about something like what was being proposed at Coleman. It was only going up to like 25 megawatts or something like that.
25.
And that's where they kept, and anything, they had nothing else to talk about. And I remember I asked during it, what about larger projects? Well, we don't have anything to share with you at this time. This is nice, but this is nice thing for, yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
They were giving us information. It's like crazy.
well,
Not
hopefully,
nice, is it nice?
Nicer.
Nicer. I get my nice.
Yes, Maggie.
So,
so hopefully, I mean, they are,
Hang on, Maggie has a question.
did they in the best thing talk about how it's actually being classified in zoning? Because that is actually where the people that are fighting the one at Coleman are saying that the way the building inspector in the town of Ulster classified it as, I don't know, whatever, you know.
In the guidelines.
I think
It
it's just
is,
gotten out
okay.
of hand, they don't know what to do with it.
Well,
It's in
because
the-
I
it's in
wonder
the
how
guidelines.
the other towns are also, if
That-
there's any
That's
continuity
got,
in
that's
how.
got everything. written
See
to
what
the
you
T.
need with the Coleman thing?
Mitch,
That's got everything written to the T.
Okay,
In those guidelines, so you can ask like, who's responsible to take it down? Who's responsible? Is there a bond? All these different questions, it's in there.
okay.
Which I was like looking at all of them.
No, what's interesting with the Coleman thing is I look more into it because, quote, it was a school. So it almost doesn't fall under any zoning or state property. Because it was a school letter. Now, I don't know how that affects what they're doing, but,
Well,
But so
supposedly,
it's-
when one of these batteries catch on fire,
oh, they're terrible.
they stay in the enclosed unit and it burns in there, so it's done. That's what, it doesn't continue on with the rest of the units, it's gotta be hot as hell.
So
But Cedar was a school too.
So, to answer your question, Carl, the modern installations of this do not transfer one fire. The container, fire can't jump to another container.
Because
So-
it jumps.
So we managed to solve that problem by creating
cannot jump.
necessary spacing but the big issue is that even with that burn, the amount of, toxic gases that get produced, and there's one, this hydrogen, but it basically moves around like fog.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
heavy.
Yeah, it's
So it
ground level.
floats
It's ground level,
Yep, and it just
very dense.
very dense and it moves like fog.
It's like when they gassed me in the service. The fog kept coming up and you were standing at attention, you had to keep going like this, and finally it got to you.
The other thing is that when if they use water to try to douse it,
It don't work.
the water, aside from not working, the water then spreads the pollutants everywhere. You know, when they go into the watershed, there's no way to, I don't think there's a containment ability if they have to use so much water.
You literally have to let it burn.
But the irony is that it's in a school, because the school is placed by zoning in most municipalities in an area that's more residential, because the children live there.
That's right.
So you'd think that would be the last place they put a battery.
Fortunately, there's a switching station right there.
Oh,
That-
well,
that's
they're-
Thank you.
Very
You
close
had
to
something
the
to say?
city.
Well, what befuddles me is that as school districts are consolidating and selling off these buildings, that people are coming in then, take Cedar, for example, when Ontario closed those, Cedar bought it to turn it into apartments. But that apartment use had to still be allowed under zoning in that district. So that's, from everything I've talked to people with Coleman, is that was where the mistake, for lack of a better word, happened, in that, yes, it was a school, but whoever is doing the project, the owner, Alcazar, whoever it is, that when the town of Ulster made that determination that the change of use to this, whatever best is being called in zoning now, should not have happened
Is that
in
a
that district.
commercial, mixed commercial
That's what
residential?
I'm
zone?
asking, I don't know.
But even in our own code, you might want to look at our fiscal abuse. So look under utility.
Oh, that's where they're putting it.
Utility has a lot of rights.
Yeah, because they all,
Obvious
yeah,
reasons.
yeah, wow.
They don't have my.
Well, it's like your cell towers.
But Maggie.
Cell towers, after a while, we had nothing to
You
say
bring
about
up
Really
an
transform.
interesting point, these empty schools, and other places.
That's your one.
This gets to a frustration I have as I've been getting more, over the years, more involved in economic development issues and whatnot, is that our county does not proactively plan economic development. It sits there like an order taker, all right? Thank you, bro. All right? What?
No, you're right, I'm saying that.
We're an order taker as opposed, that school's closed, someone should have been in the county economic development office, trying to pump someone to come and buy that would be beneficial to the community and with a good track record. Instead, you got a slumlord who's building up and has been already a terrible neighbor, all right? So, we need housing, but not.
The Ulster County Planning Board, were you on that at one time? or-
No, I've gone to meetings and I know
well,
Dennis Doyle, like he doesn't.
At the planning board, I was on it. And everything is decided before you even get there.
Oh,
It's
Dennis
totally-
already planned.
And here's what we're gonna do. Do we hear a motion? Second, and like, what the hell is this?
Well, I'm still on it now. We're gonna do batch people coming in and not this last week, 2 weeks ago, they put up some fights. Well, they said, because Dennis is very powerful in his presentation, but the new people are voicing more than those who've been on it for like 40 years.
Well, the thing that he could have retired years ago,
He doesn't want him, he loves it.
right? What? Why is he allowed to stay there?
Well, he does do a good job.
No. Well,
And his name is Dennis.
hold on, he's never, okay, well, he hasn't done a good job from some points of view, but he's never lived or worked anywhere else but Ulster County. It's time for a fresh perspective.
Let's get a city folk in to do it. No, I don't think it will.
I didn't say that.
But this is on
No,
topic and I'm
I'm
gonna
not
go home
doing
and eat dinner.
All right.
All right, that was a very lively discussion, everyone. Thank you very much and for the update.
And by the way, it was like 90 degrees in the room. They couldn't turn the heater off
Oh, the
in the hotel. So you're
My
sitting
room.
there and you're like, speakers, it's like, my presentation is going to be.
That was on one.
Yeah, no.
Also one, it's also ridiculous.
For the most part, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
What's the
So thank you for toughing it up and,
lunch and breakfast, they were fantastic.
And thanks for the pen. I'm gonna wear it to my next party.
So
And
Debbie, do you have a motion you'd like to make?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're done.
Thank
you very much.
What I'm hoping.
you give Maggie one here. Take this.
I have
They-
biscuit in one, he brought me one back.
Yeah, it's a big fan of long.
The name though.
I think this is a new
Charger out there, but this is for an older laptop.
Well, thank God they gave you the adapter.
Yeah, right. So it's just like, so it's just an adapter.
I didn't know they gave me though, because I could use my own.
This would be the other way around right there. I think this is yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to get
Yeah.
that thing.
This is a newer cord, an older.
You going over to him?
Oh, my wife used that laptop.
These old things. I have a cell phone that doesn't work.
See you next month.
Yeah.
7.
Oh, I hope it's soon. Wanna go arrange some things back,
You know what? I'm not.
trying to perfect, not, to live in the.
Well,